our list of the guys that I told you we were going to have on every day. Pettit today, Messier tomorrow, and in the days to come, you'll hear from A-Rod, and you will hear from Derek Jeter, too. So, among others, Coach K, a bunch of others, too. So, they're going to be coming. We have a bunch of great interviews coming up. Eddie in Westchester, what's up, Eddie?
Hey, Mike. A couple things on McVay and the Rams and this breaking the huddle and still McVay and Goff's head. I thought the NFL cuts the mics off after the
15 seconds is they're supposed to cut them off. 15 seconds is the rule. So I've not seen this. I'm not familiar with it. Those accusations happen now and again. It's not that big a deal. They'll take care of it. If they're playing funny with the microphones, with the headsets, they'll take care of it. That's listen, there's always accusations of that. Hear it again, that this team's shutting our mics off, this team's doing this team's doing that. NFL will police that. That's not that big a deal. But I hadn't heard any accusations there, but it's not unusual to hear people make those charges. Rick in Florida, what's up, Rick?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
What's happening?
I think you were betting with your heart when you went with Andy Reid against the Bills. I mean, they were up and down, but
I never made any prediction on the game. I just didn't think the Bills would win.
They wouldn't win outright.
I didn't think they'd win. Well, they were a 10-point under. The last three games, they'd been outscored 100-30. That's why I didn't think, and they had changed quarterbacks. That's why I didn't think they'd win. I did not think that. I did not think the Chiefs would not be able to run the ball when the Bills had given up something like 650 yards rushing in their last three games. I did not think the Chiefs would be that bad running the ball. No, I did not.
Yeah, they're in a bad situation.
Because the Bills had been playing great going into that game. They really had been looking really good. They'd only lost 54, only given up 54 points the week before. So, go ahead.
Now, hey, Mike, going forward as a Giants fan, in your heart, going forward, I'm excited about the draft now. I want them to lose every game.
Well, that's just
quarterback.
Just foolish.
But listen, a number 2 pick versus a number 5 pick's a big difference. What would you rather have for the Giants in your heart going forward?
I'm not discussing them losing every game. I don't get into that stuff. When they have a draft pick and they have a slot, fine. I don't get into this lose every game stuff, all right? When the season's over, they'll have a draft pick. Then we'll get into it. For us to sit here now and decide what draft slot the Giants are going to have, we have no idea. And we don't even know who's in the draft yet. So that all has to happen. It's not happened yet. We don't know what players are going to declare. Sam Darnold doesn't even have to declare for the draft yet. So he has not declared for the draft. So that won't happen yet. So we don't even know who's in the draft until January 9th. And we don't know the draft order until New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, when the regular season's over. Then we'll know. Larry in Bridgeport, what's up, Larry?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Mike, I just wanted to get your opinion on the 4 teams you think that are going to end up in the college football playoff, and how you think the Ohio State-Wisconsin game is going to play out.
I think the interesting thing is going to be, I think Ohio State's going to beat Wisconsin, and I think that is going to cause the big problem. That is going to be the very interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see. First of all, it's going to matter how that game is played. If that game is an Ohio State blowout, it will clearly help Ohio State. If that game is a 1-point Ohio State win or something, or a game that was, could have gone either way, or Wisconsin loses it late or something like that, that will impact Ohio State. So how the game is played matters, because you're dealing with style points here, and it's going to be very hard to take Ohio State. You're not taking Ohio State over Oklahoma. You can forget that. So if Oklahoma wins, they're going over Ohio State. And the question is, do you take Ohio State or Alabama? That's really going to be the tough one. And the Big Ten champ or the second SEC team that is recognized by everybody as the number 1 team in the country. That is the fascinating one. And that's the one that is going to cause the great debate. Is going to be Ohio State versus, if Ohio State wins, versus Alabama. That's going to be the one, because Clemson wins, they're in. They're taking the SEC champ without any question. Clemson wins, they're in, and Oklahoma wins. I think they're going to get in. So they're the other one. Now, the only time I'm going to talk about Oklahoma is if they're up against Alabama. If they're up against Ohio State, they're in automatically. So that doesn't come into play. So if I give you the teams that are going to win, I think are going to win the games. That's the first thing you got to do. Clemson.
Mike, did you think the Iowa loss by Ohio State was really a bad loss?
It was embarrassing. They lost by 30 points.
At home too. So
no, the game was in Iowa City. The game was not at home.
Oh, it was in Iowa City. Yeah, but I know.
Well, wait a second. Wait, you just said it was at home. It wasn't at home.
I'm wrong.
Right, so it makes a big difference. If it was at home, the game would have been mortifying. They weren't at home. Right. They were in Iowa City, okay? But Oklahoma beat them by 15 points in their building. So
I know.
So right now, the first thing you have to do is decide who's going to win this week's games. I think Clemson's going to win. I don't care who wins the SEC game. Oklahoma's going to win. And I think Ohio State's going to beat Wisconsin. Now, if that's the 4 teams, Clemson's in, the SEC champ is in, Oklahoma's in, and then it comes down to Alabama versus Ohio State. And that is going to be fascinating. A 2-loss Big Ten champ versus the recognized number 1 team in the country that stubbed its foot at Auburn to end the regular season. And its only loss. That is going to be fascinating. I think on merit, you take Alabama. I think on everything else, the politics, the marketing, the TV ratings, everything else, how do you not take a Big Ten team? So fascinating to watch that one unfold. I would love to see that one. Love to see that one. Now, if it's Wisconsin, they are in automatically. Then it shifts to Alabama against Oklahoma. And that's a tricky one. I don't think Alabama's going to win that one. They should, but I don't think they will. Because a 1-loss Oklahoma with the Heisman winner versus Alabama, and the other one is Alabama versus a 2-loss Ohio State. I think Alabama beats Ohio State, although it's very fascinating to see what happens. The Big Ten carries a lot of clout. And I think Oklahoma probably edge Alabama, most likely. It's tricky. I would take Alabama. I think they're better, but I think they will take Oklahoma in that regard. But I think Alabama... See, here's the hard part, is that Alabama's the best team. We all know it. They're the best team. Of all teams in the country, they're the best team. So you leave the best team out? That's why this is fascinating this year. I really think it's going to be fun to watch. Gary in Jersey. What's up, Gary?
Hey, Mike. I know you only have a couple of weeks, but I wish you the best.
Thank you.
I'm really going to miss the show.
Thanks. What's up?
You can't leave Alabama out.
Yes, you can.
I'd rather you leave the SEC.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's not even an issue. That's not happening though. That's no way that is. It's not, wait, you can forget that. Don't even bring it up, Gary. They are never leaving the SEC champ out. That's not happening. That's not happening. The number 1 league is not sending its champion. Alabama, Georgia winner is Auburn. Georgia winner is going.
Okay, if it's Oklahoma versus Alabama, Oklahoma lost at home to Iowa State.
They did.
Alabama lost on the road.
They did.
To probably the second best team in the country.
Alabama lost at the end of the season, which does matter in college football.
Okay. And Ohio State lost to Michigan State and got blown out by 31. So even
Ohio
if
State's a different argument.
Yeah, but Wisconsin.
Ohio State is not a. Ohio State is not. Forget. That's not fair. First of all, Wisconsin wins all their games. They're not a weak team. They're undefeated. They're in automatically. They're in on roller skates. Any team that wins all their games is in automatically from the Big Ten. Sorry, don't say they're a weak team is nonsense. They didn't lose any games, and they'll have beat Michigan and Ohio State. They're not a weak team. That's nonsense. Total nonsense. They'll have beat Michigan and Ohio State. And those 2 teams can play with anybody in the country. So that's nonsense. Total nonsense. Wisconsin wins. They're in easy. The SEC champ is in automatically. There's no way the SEC champ is not going. That's automatic. So the SEC champ is going automatically. Wisconsin wins. They're in automatically. Clemson wins, they're in automatically. Miami, I don't think is automatic. Oklahoma's not automatic. Ohio State's not automatic. And then there's Alabama sitting on the edges. That's what you're left with. TCU has no chance. John in Jersey, what's up, John?
Hey, Mike, how you doing? Mentioned many times down at Bar Ray. Hope you still come down here once in a while.
Let's see what's going on.
All right, Mike, listen, real quick. December the 4th, I like sports gambling, of course.
Right.
December the 4th, in front of the Supreme Court,
Correct.
it's going in front of... You think it passes, Mike?
Well, it's not about passing. It's a judgment. It's not a passing. It's the Supreme Court will render a decision.
Render, that's what I meant to say. Excuse me.
But the decision will not be known until next June.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, that far.
Yes,
Okay.
next June. So you got a ways to wait, but I do think that the Supreme Court case will be won by the state of New Jersey. I do think they will. From everything I hear is that it will be, they believe it will be won by the state of New Jersey, but they will not render the decision until next June. So you won't hear about it till then. It could be all the way to the 4th of July. Excuse me. The deadline is June 30th. They have to render the decision by June 30th. John in Jersey, what's up, John?
Hey, Mike, how you doing? You mentioned last week that maybe Joe Montana was the best postseason quarterback. What about Bart Starr?
I said he was the best Super Bowl quarterback.
I heard you said he was the best postseason.
I said no, I didn't. I said Super Bowl. I said he was the best postseason.
Okay. Would you say that Bart Starr is the best because he was 9-1 and he has the highest quarterback rating in postseason passes?
I think Bart Starr was a great quarterback on great teams. Absolutely, different sport. Then very different sport. But yes, now Bart Starr played well in both Super Bowls that he won. He played in Super Bowl 1 and 2. He was the MVP of Super Bowl 1 and 2.
Right.
And he ran probably the most efficient offense in the history of football. And he was 9-1, as Lombardi was, since they were tied at the hip. He was 9-1. Lombardi was 9-1. They lost to the Eagles in 1960 and never lost another playoff game and won 5 titles, but at 2 Super Bowls. So I said Montana was the best Super Bowl quarterback of all time, not the best postseason. I've never said who the best postseason quarterback is of all time. I've never made a declaration. It would be hard to beat Bart Starr because he was 9-1 and he was incredibly efficient. Did not make a lot of mistakes. Perry in Scarsdale, what's up, Perry?
Hello?
Yeah, Perry, what's up?
Hey, I wanted to totally disagree with your statements today and yesterday that, quote-unquote, everybody knows Alabama is the best in the nation.
Yeah, okay, so how would you deem... Well, tell me how you would prove somebody was the best. How would you... what would you use as evidence that they were the best team?
Okay, well, first of all, Alabama...
Don't go through. Listen, don't go through and give me a lot of stuff about what happened this year. Tell me how you would decide who was the strongest team.
Based on their out-of-conference record.
Well, let me ask you something right now. Let me just cut to the chase. Let me just cut to the chase here. Let me cut to the chase. If I get the odds makers on in Vegas and I put the 2 teams, match every team up that's alive in the pool, do you think anybody's going to be favored over Alabama on a neutral field? The answer is 100% no. Alabama will be the favorite, and that is the way you judge relative strength in football, is who's the favorite on a neutral field. And Alabama, hands down, will be the favorite against Alabama is never an underdog. Never. Ever an underdog. They have dominated the sport for the last 6 years. They are never underdog. And Alabama would be favored. Alabama was favored by, what were they favored at Auburn? 5.5? Was it 5.5, 6? What were they favored at Auburn on Saturday? Alabama would be favored a minimum. The closest point spread they would face would be Clemson, and that would probably be 4 points, maybe 5 points on a neutral field. And that would be the closest they would face. Maybe 4.5. They were, how many did you say, Mons? 5.5? They were 5.5 at Auburn, which means you're giving Auburn anywhere from 3 to 4 points for their home field, which means on a neutral field, Alabama would have been 9 to 10 against. Let's see, they would have been 5, 8. They would have been about 11 at Alabama, and they were 5.5 at Auburn. Alabama would be favored against any team in the country on a neutral field, and that's the only objective way you can decide relative strength, is to put a power rating on the teams. If you're going to do the guys who do it for a living, who put a power rating on the team, they would make Alabama favored against any team in the country on a neutral field, without any question. That wouldn't even be that's a no-brainer. Here's the Mink Man.